But in this particular case, talagang they stayed, they participated in the discussions, at magaganda ho yung inputs. Alam nyo, hindi ho ata kami nagkamali na sa Cordillera umpisan mo ito. If you notice, it's a joint meeting of the RTC and the ARPO. RTC concerns economic reforms. NEDA is the primary agency of government that handles planning for the economic direction of our country. At yung ARPOC naman under DILG, ang concern ho niya is on security. Maganda ho yung naging resulta na kung saan ang kaser at ang social economic reforms at ito pong ceasefire, nakita ho natin yung pagiging kambal ho nila. And of course, we're glad that in the Cordilleras, iisa ho ang chairman ng RTC at saka ARPO, si Mayor Tobogan. May full integration. As a result of his seniority, maybe as a leader of the Cordilleras, or as a result of his sponsoring always the activities of the Cordilleras. I would rather go for the second side. So yung Region 1 at Region 2, dito uli natin gagawin sa Baguio at kasama po uli kayo. Anyway, how do we do this? Unang-una ho, the entire negotiating process with the CNN is about economic reforms. Ang dulo po nito is yung end of hostilities or the final peace agreement after discussing constitutional reforms at saka yung end of hostilities. Yung ceasefire, historically ho, under 5 presidents, with the exception of President Duterte, sabi ko po kahapon, yung ceasefire has always accompanied peace negotiations, but during special occasions, Christmas, Holy Week, but not in this particular case. We are now seriously discussing the issue of ceasefire simply because we have achieved the longest ceasefire ever in the negotiations with the CNN, 5 months after it collapsed. So, what is the objective of a ceasefire, basically? Yung ceasefire ho kasi, sa pakiwari ho ng GRP panel, it provides a conducive atmosphere for negotiations. Why am I saying this? I have been a part of the peace negotiations since 2001. While we were discussing Kaser, doon po sa Oslo, Governor Aguinaldo was assassinated in Cagayan at nag-collapse po yung talks. The talks collapsed. And since then, during the time of President Arroyo, ang hirap na pong ibalik yung formal talks. Even from President Arroyo until President Aquino, because of an incident, major incident for that matter, nag-collapse yung talks. So, a ceasefire provides a more conducive atmosphere so that both parties can talk freely, openly, with minimal distractions. Yung pangalawa ho, it provides a breathing space, especially in the conflict areas. Ito po ay may kinalaman sa usapin ng delivery of support services and delivery of basic social services. Kung may ceasefire, at may tigil putukan, local governments, representatives of national agencies can freely move around. But more importantly, the civilians in the conflict areas can also conduct livelihood activities, businesses, unhampered. Yun naman po yung bottom line ng isang ceasefire. For the military, they can refocus their attention to address the more radical extremist groups like the Abu Sayyaf, to ensure, and the police of course, to ensure public order and safety dito po sa ating bansa. And take note, ladies and gentlemen, in the case of the CNN, they are not asking for special laws or territories. Unlike our brothers in Mindanao, yung MILF, all our brothers in the Cordilleras. Di ba? So merong arm, merong Cordillera. But specifically, in the case of the CNN, wala po silang hiniinging special territories or special laws. All they're asking for in these negotiations is that we negotiate the terms of reforms that would address the problems of poverty in this country and achieve just and lasting peace. Lahat po ng sinabi ko, covered ho nung present nyo. Di ba? Wala ho tayong pinagkaiba. The only difference is, yung inyong mga sinasabi ho dito are based on your actual experiences dito po sa Cordillera. Which is most of the time, many times, lacking when people from Manila or national agencies discuss national concerns without consulting yung mga representatives sila po dito sa baba. So, very valuable po yung input. Let me just give you a very short history of the ceasefire. Sabi ko nga po kanina, accompanied, yung ceasefire accompanies yung peace talks, releases of NDFP-listed personalities, prisoners, accompanies yung peace talks. The absence of sometimes releases na kukulapso yung peace talks. Under the Duterte administration, even before he assumed his presidency, because of his close personal ties with the leadership of the CNN already offered a ceasefire document before the president even assumed yung kanyang presidency. The NDF already offered the resumption of the formal peace talks even before the resumption of the Duterte administration. So, ang unang ceasefire na in-announce ng both parties, which lasted for 5 months, was in August. Nag-collapse po ito noong January, nag-back channel po kami noong March. At nag-negotiate po kami itong huling buwan para pag-usapan mo ang at nagpirmahan na sana po magkaroon ng mas permanenteng ceasefire. I think this is where the interrelationships between the ceasefire and the CASER comes into play. Ang intindi po namin doon sa pinirmahan po namin na ceasefire, it is divided into 3 major parts. The interim side of the ceasefire, where both parties can declare unilateral ceasefires, like the first one, na wala po munang rules. The rules subject to negotiations. And what are those rules that would more or less result to a more stable ceasefire? Buffer zone, which you have just discussed a while ago. Definition of hostile acts, pinag-usapan nyo rin po. Monitoring mechanisms, pinag-usapan nyo rin po. With the exception lang ho ng socio-econ activities. But those 3 major components can lead to a more permanent and stable ceasefire. So from interim to permanent ceasefire, yun ho yung first requirement. Now, what are the other requirements of a more permanent ceasefire with the other party? The other requirements are, unang-una ho, the strengthening of the CARIL. Yung CARIL ho, Comprehensive Agreement for the Respect of Human Rights and International Law. Patuloy ho namin pinag-usapan yan every time there is a round of talks. What is the importance of CARIL? It is not just about promoting human rights, it is not just about jointly conducting activities with the other party to promote human rights, but it also defines the violations, specifically to ceasefire, yung usapin po ng extortion at saka arson. And these are also the conditions imposed by the President, na kailangan pumayag yung kabilang panig before we resume the talks again after it collapsed upon the withdrawal of the unilateral ceasefire of the National Democratic Front. CARIL is very important. Dito pa lang alam na natin na yung mga nangyayari ngayon dito, Lapanday incident and so many other incidents, violation mo yan. Ang tanong na lang paano ipapatupad ng gobyerno yung CARIL? Marami na hong reforma ang ginawa ng gobyerno. Including the military and police, you have now human rights offices within your establishments We have created the Human Rights Commission. We promote human rights in our curriculums. For the students to learn. Marami na ho yan. Marami na ho yan. So these are ways of government complying with the issue of promotion of human rights. Of course, marami po dapat gawin. Hindi naman po porke nandiyan ang opisina, yun na ho yun. The other one is if a violation on career, like extortion and arson happens, or the burning of facilities, equipment, or forcibly asking for money in exchange for protecting or non-burning of your property. Sabi nga po, that's a violation of career, the military continues to file charges against yung maalam nila na nagkunda ng pagsusunog o pagkolekta ho ng pera. Probably a clear example of this one is the Makilala incident which happened in Cotabato, South Cotabato, while we were conducting the peace talks doon po sa Rome. Then there is Kaser. Inuulit ko po, itong Kaser ang pinakamahalaga na agenda sa usapin po ng peace talks na to. Hindi lamang po with the NDFP, also with government. Because we are talking about reforms. And when we talk about reforms, we're trying to reform government. We're not trying to reform the other side. We are trying to reform government. We are trying to come up with reforms on policy issues, on program issues, on specific projects to implement that particular policy. Malinaw man po sa atin eh. It is enshrined in our Constitution, social justice. Social justice, if you translate that in one of the major programs of government, that's agrarian reform, asset reform. Di ba? At ang programa ho ng agrarian reform, ang isa sa pinakamalaga or the key to the success of agrarian reform is land distribution. Yun ho yun eh. But we agree that that is not the end. That is a means to an end. So pagkatapos po ng asset reform, the bigger challenge for government, not only national but local government and all its agencies and all its attached agencies, is how to increase the income of the farmers. So that's part of Kaser. These are the things that are being discussed with the other parties. Kasama na ho dito yung delivery of basic services, etc. etc. Now, how is it related to the ceasefire? On the interim side, zero. We can have a unilateral ceasefire with the other party that can last 6 years. But we can never achieve a final peace agreement with the other party if we cannot deal with Kaser. Kaser is the trigger mechanism that would also lead to the discussion of PCR, political and constitutional reforms, and so is end of hostilities. What is important with PCR? Well, that is up to all of us sa government. Kasi ang susi lang naman ho ron sa PCR na gusto po ni Pangulong Duterte is whether we are amenable, at ang pinakamalaki na programa po ni Presidente rito is the possibility of shifting the form of government. From a presidential form of government to a federal parliamentary form of government. A basic question to the people of Cordillera, is that favorable po sa inyo? Will that affect the autonomy of the people of Cordillera if and when CAR becomes one federal state? Ano ba ibig sabihin sa federal state? You have the executive branch, you have the legislative branch, and you have the judicial branches under the control of the federal government, with the exception of policies that affect the entire country. So on the matter of defense, on the issue of monetary policies, on the issue of printing of money, hindi ko kayo pwede. But I would love to see the day that when I go to the Cordillera, under Governor Dumogan, meron ng pera dito ng mukha ni Governor Dumogan yung nakatatak. Baka mas mataas ang value kasi. Di ba? Yun ang ibig sabihin lang ng federal form of government. And if we have that, we have end of hostilities, final peace agreement. I do agree, di ba? That peace is not just the absence of war, but the absence of poverty. Tama ho yun eh. So, timeline-wise, ano ang pinag-usapan mo natin dito? Between the interim ceasefire and the permanent ceasefire, it can be determined not by the ability of the ceasefire committee to negotiate with the other party. It can be the timetable can be determined by the ability of the CASEL committee to negotiate with the other party to trigger a permanent ceasefire with the other party. So timetable-wise, we are hoping that by December of this year, matatapos ho namin yung two key components of the CASEL agenda. And that is agrarian reform and rural development at yung pong national industrialization. Once we get this, we are very hopeful na baka magkaroon na po ng permanent ceasefire with the other party. So ano ang implication nito? Na may CASEL at merong permanent ceasefire. Ang sabi po ng kabilang panig, under the conditions of a permanent ceasefire, we have defined already the terms of references, buffer, monitoring, hostile acts, socio-economic projects, releases, unilateral ceasefire. Pag nag-permanent ito, anong basic difference ng dalawa? Hindi na po nyo kami kalaban. We will have a scenario, probably, if I'm not mistaken, a scenario with the MILF. Parang gano'n na ho yun eh. Close to our relationship with the MILF under a permanent ceasefire. Remember yung MILF mo, yung ceasefire with the MILF by the GRP started not during the Aquino administration. The permanent ceasefire, correct me if I'm wrong, our friends from the security sector started during the Arroyo administration. And from the Arroyo administration to the Pinoy administration until today, that permanent ceasefire has remained intact. Despite major engagements between the military or the police and the MILF or MILF-affiliated organizations, like the Mama Sapano incident. Grabe ho yun. The Mama Sapano incident derailed the passage of the Bangsamoro Basic Law. But it did not derail the agreement, the ceasefire agreement with the MILF, and we continue to talk with the MILF to implement maybe another law that would finally put an end to the armed conflict in the island of Mindanao. Now, under an interim ceasefire, kahit wala pa ho yung CASEL, both parties can talk about a joint ceasefire committee, even in the absence of a unilateral ceasefire. What is a JCC? Kahapon pa ho namin binubuno ni General Balagtaso ito sa labas, where both parties can agree or have agreed or partially agreed na magtayo tayo ng JCC, Joint Ceasefire Committee. So what is the role of the JCC? The JCC's role in the absence of a ceasefire is to de-escalate armed clashes kung may nangyaring incident. So for example, wala pong unilateral ceasefire, nagkaroon ng conflict dito sa Cordillera, nagkaputukan, huwag naman po sana, the JCC's role is to fly to Cordillera at paghiwalayin po yung magkabilang panig. Now, ang isang mekanismo na pinapasok po namin in the absence of a unilateral ceasefire is the mechanism of ARPO in the process. Hindi po pwede, ang 1,000,000% we agree with you, hindi po pwede na yung national government will decide on issues of buffer zones and temporary stays without direct consultation with local government. Not only that, without the participation of local government. Dapat meron. We have chosen the ARPO as the mechanism because this is where all the agencies of government can meet, and we meet regularly. At yung ARPO, may representation po to. May ARPO, may PIPO, may SIPO, ano bisa, may MPO, may POKPOK, ano ba? Naubusan ako ng POK eh. Di ba? May ulat sa baba eh. So, ibig sabihin, under the guidance of ARPO, kung ang conflict area, example lang ho, Barangay 1 ng Kalinga, ano ho, then yung MPO can be the mechanism to address, ano ho, yung issue ng putukan mo. So that's a mechanism in place. But what is the basic difference? An amended ARPO executive order increased its membership that includes agencies of government na hindi lang purely security agencies. Member ng ANDAR, ang DA, ang PhilHealth, ang NEDA, etc. So our local governors, our local mayors, our security forces, pag bumaba po sa isang lugar, hindi na ho paala ang dala. Relief goods na. PhilHealth cards. These are the basic services that can be provided for by the agencies within the ARPOC mechanism or the RDC mechanism. It's not anymore a purely security issue, but it can be a measure. It is a government mechanism. It is a measure where local governments are empowered, can be empowered, including our security forces, to address the most immediate and basic needs of our people, especially in the conflict areas. Now, how many are conflicted areas in the Philippines? Out of the 41,000 barangays in the Philippines, government estimates from the security sector, 500 barangays nationwide. Maybe they're conservative. Dagdagan naman natin, 1,000 barangays na lang ito. Out of 41 barangays, 41,000 barangays. What is this telling us? That the 40,000 barangays are safe, are not conflicted, are not affected. Ito po yung sinasabi ni Mayor Dumogan kahapon. Now, while we are addressing the problem of insurgency, let us not forget those communities, those people who have remained not only loyal to government, but would want to live in peace. If you keep on putting special attention dito, baka mamaya mag-NPA ulit dito. Kung magkamali ho tayo sa kaser, baka in-address mo yung problema ng NPA, may bagong susulpot na NPA simply because injustice was committed to them, not by the other party, but by government. This is where the GRP panel is very, very careful. That's why consultations like this are very important to us. Wala hong no-all catch-all scenario yung GRP panel rito. That is not the nature and the way by which we are trying to run itong consultations, but also these negotiations with the other party. Under a permanent ceasefire condition, siyempre papunta na ho tayo sa dulo, which is end of hostilities. But let me give you a scenario. What if scenario? Siyempre, ang gusto ho namin, matapos ang demobilization of armed units within the Duterte administration. So we have a timeline of 5 years. 5 more years, technically speaking. Di ba? If we are able to successfully negotiate the CASER issues, the PCR issues, but what if we are not successful in negotiating? We negotiated CASER, yung PCR di tayo mabot. Ang tanong ko po sa ating lahat, what would be the impact of a 6-year ceasefire with the CNN as far as public order and security is concerned in this country? So, kahit kami we're also being very, very careful. Even if we have negotiated reforms already, if we cannot implement them properly, baka hindi magkaroon ng end of hostilities. But the possibility of a 6-year ceasefire, how would that impact on the Cordilleras? The issues you raised a while ago, if that happens, scenario to, if I were to talk to the governors and the mayor present now, and to all of you, the security forces and the other regions, where do we locate yung mga kapatid ho natin na NPA and other armed groups within the Cordilleras? Kasi if we sign a permanent ceasefire with them, they will claim that they are in 60 provinces. Alam natin na meron dito sa Cordillera. Ang alam ko, ang Baguio, Aranal, nandito ang ospital, di ba? Nandito yung mga NGOs nila, nandito yung mga target ng mga estudyante, expansion area, recruitment area, finance area. This is part of their IPO area, ideological, political, and organizational expansion, recovery area. But under a 6 year of ceasefire, ano kaya ang posible mangyari? So, it is in a way open-ended. But sabi ko nga po, the challenge to end the hostilities, the challenge for them to agree to a demobilization of forces or even an integration, assuming they want that, doon po sa ating mga kasamahan sa security forces, depends not on them but on government. This is a negotiation. Di ba? At the end of the day, a successful negotiation will lead to what? One government, government of the Republic of the Philippines. One army, armed forces of the Republic of the Philippines. Di ba? One police force, Philippine National Police. Malinaw ho yun eh. Malinaw ho yun. So, yung negosasyon na ito, yung timeline na ito, depende ho sa kapasidad, abilidad ng gobyerno na makipag-usap sa kabila at ipatupad ng gobyerno yung pinag-usapan. But let me also tell you this, we are also conscious of the fact that even without negotiations with the other party, and Joe Masison has said this many times in the past, di ba? Make us irrelevant na. Hindi natin kailangan mag-usap eh. Basta matino ang gobyerno, titigil kami. Hindi kami makaka-recruit. Tapos na boxing. So what does that tell us? Di ba? And while they are there and while we are here, and the President wants this country to move forward, to move faster to address the issue of poverty, we have to address this armed conflict with the other party. Of course, some definition of terms, buffer zone, areas of temporary stay, di ba? Ang neto lang naman ho ng ceasefire, tigil putukan, yun ang neto nun eh. Tigil putukan, ceasefire. Di ba? Ceasefire, yun lang yung neto ho nun eh. So, a buffer zone could be divided by a demilitarized zone. It can be called an area of temporary stay. But the reason why we are also very careful about this, because the President has set 4 conditionalities before we resume talks with the other party. And that is for the GRP panel not to agree or concede any territory with the other party. That will never happen. We will never concede kahit a square inch of land. If and when we are talking of our MILF brothers or our Cordilleran brothers, they are part of the Constitution of the Republic of the Philippines. They are part of the territory as defined in our Constitution. So okay lang mo yun. Eh, hindi yung secession, walang gano'n na nung rito. Di ba? Hindi gano'n. No burning, no revolutionary taxes, at saka no abductions or release of all captives. We have already complied with the release of all captives. That was successfully negotiated in the Netherlands. And upon our arrival, nag-umpisa yung release ng ating mga captives. And that was closely monitored and implemented by the technical committee of the GRP panel. Our technical committee are composed of military and police officers. Yan, si Jen Pabs o Jen Boyet. Nalilito po ako eh. Pabs, pag-chicks, pag-bling, Boyet sa mga mistanya. Siguro gano'n ang ibig sabihin nun eh. Sectoral ba of the DND, Colonel Logroño of the Armed Forces of the Philippines, Colonel Felicidario of the Armed Forces of the Philippines Operations, Colonel Facundo Don Palafox, who is a former member of the JMC, and the civilian component of the Technical Committee on Ceasefire have successfully negotiated without any incident, without fanfare, the release of 7 captive police. So in between the negotiations, may mga doable so tayong ginagawa. May doable so tayong ginagawa. Now, let me also say this to all of you. Sometimes we question whether the negotiators of the other party are still in control of their forces. That's a common question. Alam niyo ito paano ito eh. Even among us, don't get us wrong. Don't get us. Pati kami ho, minsan nagdududa, may duda o nagdududa. But based on our experience, no, when they declared a unilateral ceasefire, all of their forces followed. I mean, that's a good signal. Di ba? Na without any violation in the next 5 months. Magandang signal yun. When we agreed to resume both parties unilateral ceasefires, di ba? Hinihintay lang ng kabilang panig yung unilateral ceasefire ng gobyerno. Ayaw pa natin, pero ready sila mag-declare ng unilateral ceasefire. Ready na po sila. If there is one unilateral, both parties, it is fair to say that we can avoid incidents like the Panday incident that happened in the island of Mindanao. Posible ho yun. But we're not also saying na porque may ceasefire, even a permanent one, eh wala nang violations na mangyayari. Now, this is where the concept of third-party monitoring come into play. Third-party monitoring, meaning they can be Filipinos, national organizations, regional organizations, the IPs na sinasabi nyo of Cordillera, na dapat, ito innovation ho ito, ngayon lang ho namin naintindihan ito. Although nababasa namin ito, ngayon lang ho namin naintindihan. That in ensuring ceasefire, in the Cordilleras, the values by which the Cordilleras resolve conflict must be respected. If not, the primary mechanism to resolve conflict, at least, di ba, within the Cordilleras. To avoid historical, cultural sites of the Cordilleras because it might trigger, di ba, clashes. Kung hindi ho natin respetuhin. Or, beyond that, government will lose support of the Cordilleras on the issue of peace in this country. Thank you very much for that input. Thank you very much for that input. Malaking bagay ho yun sa amin. Because the other party also has an idea and apparently both parties have either misinterpreted or misunderstood your culture or no idea at all. Di ba? So that's a major input. Thank you very much po. And finally, yung timetable and integration, sabi nga, di ba, ng ceasefire at saka CASER, depends more on CASER than on ceasefire. Time-wise, December ang nakikita ko namin na potential, na possibility na magkaroon ng CASER signing or initially at which can lead to a more permanent ceasefire. So ang tanong, and of course, we would like to institutionalize, we would like to recommend that the participation of ARPOC and RDC for both be institutionalized. And sabi nga po namin, if both RDC and ARPOC can come up with a concept of a peace fund separate of your regular budget, di ba, which you use to deliver support services, basic services, mas maganda ho yun. I am of the understanding that regional offices, even major developmental projects are either vetted, assessed, or discussed at the NEDA level. Di ba? So malaking bagay ho ito. Even during the negotiations, the people of the Cordilleras can already think of not just funds but projects. So, what do I mean by this? Ibig sabihin sa tagal ho ng prosesong ito, 30 years daw kami nag-negotiate. Yung mga original na kausap naming mayor, hindi na sila mayor ngayon. Yung iba, mayor, mamaya congressman, mamaya mayor. Kilala ko yun. Magaling yun eh. Di ba? Yung ibang regional directors, nag-retire na sa tagal ng negosasyon na to. Yung ibang RDs, nag-expire na dahil sa tagal ho ng negosasyon na to. But if we can institutionalize projects and programs sa each agencies of ours, with the help of local government, primarily local government, I think, even without negotiations or kahit may ceasefire, we can help, doon sa pag-ensure na maidulo ho natin ito, yung tinatawag po natin na final peace agreement. So December is the key. CASER, ceasefire. May duda ho ako na may ceasefire bago magkasir. May duda ako. Aaminin ko ito sa inyo. Di ba? But, negotiations ho ito eh. Hindi naman ito one side. Hindi naman ito one-way street. Two-way street ho ito. So that is the nature of a negotiation. What you discussed today is the government draft on Kasir and on the ceasefire. Your comments are more than what we expected. And definitely, your comments will be brought to the table in negotiating with the other party. In the last 2 days, sa experience ko namin, that is the single biggest, di ba, contribution at pagbubukas ng aming mata sa katotohanan po sa Republika ng Pilipinas. Maraming salamat po, magandang tanghali po.